Okay.
Okay.
Good. Call the work session to order. Today's March 6th. Who wants to go first?
Oh, we're diving in?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind starting with Alicia.
Oh.
The planner. Let me move that over to you. Okay. Because all this is going on. I read your report through that and I think I had any specific questions on your planning report. The climate smart work that you have listed on your report. If you could, I'm just gonna pass these over.
Yeah.
It says you have a DEC certification actions grant award project status 95% complete. Can you give us an update on that? What is it?
Yeah, so this is a grant awarded project. It was awarded for, DEC will pay 30,000. It's a 50-50 match. And this was the grant that funded the government operations climate action plan, right? And there are a couple of steps leading up to that plan. And then out of that plan also, we had to provide an updated fleet inventory for all fleet vehicles. And which has helped us get additional grant money. And then the final major task for this grant is to provide a fleet efficiency policy. So ahead of the initiation of this project, the climate task force actually, and I think probably with your assistance, moved forward the green fleet and procurement policy, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Which did receive points under New York State climate smart communities. However, we still had to provide a revised fleet efficiency policy. That I just received approval back on from DEC, but it was approximately 6 months of back and forth and iterative revisions, so that they were more stringent in their review of that the draft fleet efficiency policy I provided them than they were the initial policy that won the points. But as it stands now, New York State Climate Smart Communities has expired the previous policy, so it's to our advantage to continue forward with that fleet efficiency policy. As a link to that report, or an attachment to that report, I did provide a copy of the draft fleet efficiency policy that DEC approved. And it's my intent to move that forward, hopefully next council meeting for the full review and approval. I just wanted, because I just received this information this week. I didn't have enough time to get it on your agenda this week.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm not sure if you can answer it. I don't know if it's in your purview, but while I'm looking at fleet efficiency, greener energy, electric, hybrid, that kind of move that we want to make
Right.
with tariffs. Do you know if this is going to have any impact on what we do?
Will.
Yeah.
It probably will. How it will, when it will, the magnitude, it's anybody's guess at this point in time. I think with this and everything else, it's going to be a wait and see. Climate smart community grants come through the state. So it's all how the state is positioned and the decisions they make with their budget, I think, moving forward.
Okay. I received, I connected you with a gal from my ward. And so we did that by email and it was her interest in the becoming part of the Climate Smart Task Force.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yes, so she and I spoke on the phone and I put forward a resolution a few years ago to, it's a suggestion, not a mandate, for no mow May.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I wondered if the council would be interested in, reintroducing that as we get closer to spring, which is, it's not a mandate. We're not saying no one is allowed to mow, but it's just it's a nice resolution that says, we want to commit to letting spaces grow and
Yeah.
support the pollinators. And I didn't know if council would be interested in
I would.
having
definitely.
another resolution as it gets closer to May for no mow May.
Mhm.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have. I'm sure somewhere I
And
could
it
dust off the old.
went across really well. I mean, it was really well received.
And would that just be a resolution to support
Support it, right? And
efforts at large, residential efforts at large, not a city commitment to not mow a specific area?
that brings me to the other part, which
Okay.
is something that she engaged in conversation with me. And I know that this is something that was, I think it was a conversation that was had inside the Climate Smart Task Force last year. So, well, first of all, if council is interested, we can dust off the old resolution. I'm sure, we can find it. Maybe even Beth would be able to find it. Which isn't a mandate, it's a suggestion. So that we can encourage people to let their grass grow in May and encourage the pollinators. In addition to that, and so I don't know if this is something that, as Climate Smart Task Force Coordinator, if this is something that could be coordinated as part of an education program, which is also to encourage homeowners to let wildflowers that grow in patches on your property, don't mow them. As an educational initiative that could come from the Climate Smart Task Force. I know I did that last year with my lawn. Every time I saw like chunks of wildflowers, I would just mow around it and let them grow. And my yard looked like it had mange, but it's fine.
That's something I understand the intent behind this. It's something that I would want to check in with the building department on, the building inspector's office. And might encourage council as well.
Hello, building inspector's office. So it's
Yeah.
my understanding that as long, so Joe, tell me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that as long as it doesn't interfere with right of way, so that it doesn't interfere with like your ability to see around the corner, as long as it doesn't grow up to a certain height, I don't know what that is exactly. That homeowners can let patches of
I'll share the mic if
wildflowers.
you want.
Share the mic.
Am I correct on that, Joe?
Okay, so my office is tasked with enforcing the building code and our local codes, and one of them is grass growing. And if it exceeds 10 inches, it's in violation. If you don't mow for the month of May, it's gonna be in violation. So if we're instructed to stand down on that, I have no problem with it.
Just for the month of May, we
Just for
could,
the month
right,
Month of May, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, as that, in that first cycle, sun, rain, it grows and it. It's pretty obvious that it's in violation, so that's where my office would come in, that we would be taking calls, and we have in the past, this has happened before. We've, people would complain, hey, my neighbor's grass is too tall or whatever, and so normally we'd be out there talking to people, giving them citations, whatever, but if it's what you guys want to, stand down on that.
I mean, we could put all that in the resolution, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Or maybe educate the community that it's happening.
Does this include our
Make an
parks?
effort to
Okay,
let
that's the
them know.
second conversation.
Our parks are, no on the ball fields, obviously.
obviously.
But all the parks, how you gonna play in
No, no,
15-inch grass?
And
Not
this is
park.
just
Okay,
residential.
so
So the other thing that she talked to me about, this is more along your area of expertise, I think, but it's also in connection with the flowers and the encouraging the growth. I wonder if the council would be interested in having a conversation, not in the ball fields where people are using the actual space itself, but there are certainly areas outside parks. Like I'm thinking of Peter Blumet Park, which is in my neighborhood. There's a whole chunk between the fence and there's a culvert ditch where there's all kinds of overgrowth. Like, would there be any interest, or would this even be possible to allow certain areas, like what I'm just talking about, kind of let grow wild?
Well, we had that problem last year.
No, but that was different because
What
it
was the
was,
problem? Do you mind?
Big misunderstanding last year on you.
Fort Brown.
Fort Brown Drive. It was Fort Brown Drive.
So, it was just a big misunderstanding. And that grass went coastal, it went absolutely ridiculously, and the residents wanted it mowed, and it didn't get mowed. I don't know how to put things nicely. It just didn't get mowed,
Yeah,
and it was a big hoopla.
it was a big
last year.
breakdown of communication between the initiative
breakdown.
and like the intent of the initiative, which is returning certain areas to wildflower growth and how to maintain it, and the total communication broke down and it
Yep.
didn't get maintained properly. It would be the easiest way
I
to
had
do it.
people
I'm not,
calling me left and
I'm
right.
talking about specific spots, especially in parks, like what I'm talking about, where there isn't going to be pedestrian traffic, it's not going to interfere with ball fields, where,
We're talking about dedicating city portions of city property to that.
to let grow wild. Hi. I see a hand in the back of the room.
Do you want to come up too?
Yeah, actually. Being that I'm gonna be the person that's gonna take it from the.
Pretty soon, we're gonna have all of them.
No, that it was a misunderstanding. We could
Well, I don't-
well. No, it was good.
I get called all sorts of stuff, so it doesn't matter. I don't think it really was a misunderstanding, okay?
I was
We
trying to
got-
be nice.
We got direct direction from our former mayor on how it was to be maintained. I also got an extensive list of asks from someone, they wanted me to basically become a farmer. Yes, I can grow wildflowers, I'm pretty, but that would take basically running, disc harrows, tilling, replanting, the whole 9 yards. We warned certain people of not mowing that particular area, being a high traffic area, basically just collecting garbage. And the people were rightfully upset. I kind of even cheated to the point where I mowed more than I was supposed to mow. The same thing will happen at Blumet, where in the area you're talking about, it will get out of control. Now, if it's for 1 month, not a big deal. We can deal with that, but if we let it go through the summer, it will not be pretty.
And I'll put something in there too. There's invasive species that are really quite dangerous to have growing, and I emailed you last summer, I think.
Yep, it was over there on the other side of
Yeah.
the bridge. My guys actually did get to it right after you, I went over to look for them actually.
Yeah,
'Cause-
that's really dangerous stuff. If you touch it, it will cause blistering on your skin. So
Yes.
If you
So,
you
know-
let that go,
mhm.
it's not safe.
One of the other places we tried not mowing was out of the crate, some of the perimeter areas. And again, it begins to look a bit shabby. I know the pollinator things, there was one of the, somebody they called about milkweed and for the pollinators and stuff, and that's an easier one. But alongside US Ave, Blumet Park, that I would say that there'd be some people up there, if we let it go too long, they probably won't be super happy. That being said, can we mow it and get it back quickly? Yeah, probably could. I mean, we can always give it a try. I'm willing to try anything. I just want to make sure everyone's aware that. What happened on US Ave, I was directed to do. People were warned about what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, milkweeds are not,
They're not-
they're awesome.
Well, well, no, and-
Dandelions and milkweeds, we should let them grow.
But out at the crate, that was fine. The islands and the old crate parking lot and the perimeter that I think someone identified milkweed, they asked if we could not mow the islands, which. My guys love that, because that's one less thing. I mean, I have plenty of mowing to do, trust me, and with the last 2 years, it's been a real good year for growing anything, so. Just be cautious, that's all I would say. I'll give anything a try, I mean. But
What was the deal with the fence last year? Because the fence line wasn't done tight either. Was there something?
over on US Ave,
Yeah.
I was directed to only do one pass from the
Yep.
backside of the sidewalk. And all the way down through, and that's what they got.
Rough last year.
Oh, well, like I said, that's not the look I was going for. So, yeah, that was the other thing, that's what we see, it's like I try to key around certain areas, obviously around the Clyde Lewis Park. I'm looking for a particular look, I think everyone wants that to look pretty sharp, the roundabout, we're trying to get it to look a certain way, should be the same on all our entrances to the city. I think there's appropriate, places that we could identify, I'd be willing to listen and be willing to try them, if it doesn't work, we can turn it the other way quickly. But just be cautious, that's all, what you ask,
Okay, okay,
fair enough?
fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
But don't kill the milkweeds or the dandelions. It's really important pollinators. That's different because
Yeah.
people need that clean, but like I had this conversation with the same gal that called me about my neighbor who goes out with this spoon, like it's some kind of device to like rip the dandelions out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and but he and I were talking because I let the dandelions, the wildflowers, the milkweeds, I mean, I let it all grow, and so we talked about it. And I told him how important the dandelions were, and I had gone for a walk out in Ruger Woods, and I came up through the baseball field, and the entire field right there was covered in dandelions, and on all those dandelions were butterflies. And so when I told him that, I had a convert. He goes, I'm not going to pull any more dandelions. I'm like, yay. So I had another question. I have more questions for you in a minute, but I have another question since we're talking about wildflowers and code enforcement and all of that.
Okay.
And I know you and I had this conversation because I'm plagued with bad neighbors who let their dogs come around the corner and use my corner property. And I remember you and I had talked last year about allowing curb spaces to have wildflowers. So curb spaces can't have wildflowers on them when they are inside cities right of way. Isn't that right?
So technically, you're not allowed to improve city right of way for the sake of an individual. I'm not sure anybody would have a hard time with planting wildflowers in that area, but if you do, you definitely need to maintain them. You need to be the one to do that, and they certainly can't. They certainly can't become a visibility hazard.
Right.
Like
I get
And
that.
I would also defer that to other departments who might have an issue with that.
No,
Yes,
but on your
and-
personal, not city-owned property. I'm talking about personal property, if that's where we're going with that. I'm talking about personal property. So if I wanted to plant some wildflowers in that curb space between the sidewalk and the curb, as long as it doesn't overgrow, interfere with right of way, I can do that.
Between the sidewalk.
And the
or
curb, so the street.
property.
But can I put wildflowers in there as long as I maintain it? So it doesn't overgrow, it doesn't interfere with right of way, or no, it's gotta be grass?
There are a handful of addresses that have planted some, not wildflowers, but actual. real
So
flowers.
here's my caution there. As long as they're not using a rototiller in there, because that space is where our water shutoffs are to go to the houses. So if somebody sticks a rototiller in there and they hook that water shutoff, it's gonna pull their water line out of their house. Well, it'll make a mess. And we'll end up having, they'll have to hire somebody to go and dig it. So that's the one thing I would caution on there is sticking the rototiller in there to till that to plant the wildflowers. If they're going in there with a little hand tine or something to loosen up and stuff, that's probably fine, but just, I wouldn't use.
No
rototiller.
major machines.
Okay,
Yeah, so. Given a blanket statement of, yeah, that's okay, it's probably, we gotta fall a little short of that.
okay. That was all I had, for the wildflowers at least.
Okay.
So,
Clearly Elizabeth wants spring to come.
well, it's March, and before you know it, it's gonna be April, and in no time, people are gonna start planting and planning, and it's never too soon to have the conversation, but.
No,
So Alicia, as a follow-up from the last meeting where your office reported out, I just wanted to let everybody know that I have set up a meeting, and this doesn't involve you specifically or the Climate Smart Task Force specifically, but I thought I'd just bring this up. I would like to revisit the food waste and reduction policy that was passed by council a couple years ago. I have re-engaged with Jennifer Perry, who is a food hauler that was helping us with the work the first time. And I made contact with Cody from the Clinton County Health Department, and I've put together a meeting with Cody and Jennifer Perry and probably Kaylee Rayville to talk about from the health department, because she helped us with the grant the first time that we worked together. It was her work that secured the grant for the materials for the food waste and reduction policy. Because I'd like to see a pathway forward. We already have the materials. We already have a food hauler who's ready and willing and ready. We just need to finalize how to get municipal food waste out of the buildings. And then it's my understanding that Cody is going to be doing a presentation to the Climate Smart Task Force on March 19th. So
He is, but
Mhm.
it's not with the focus of intergovernment. It's,
oh, no, I know.
okay.
I know. So it's something that he can bring to the table on top of the policy we've already passed. We have materials.
Mhm.
We just need to figure out how to implement it. And so I just wanted everyone to know I've tentatively put a meeting together with Cody, Kaylee, and Jennifer Perry to talk about what needs to be done and how can it be done. And I just want to make everybody aware of that. If council still would like to enforce the policy that was passed for food waste and reduction in the municipal buildings, I would really like your support.
Do we have a copy of that policy? Is it
It's
somewhere?
somewhere. I mean, we passed it years ago. I'm sure Beth can revive it or I can find it.
Okay.
What's the cost breakdown of the hauler?
She sent me a tentative contract. It's not huge. It's not a lot of money. It's not like it's, $70,000 a year or something. Justin, that reminds me. If you, I'm not clear on what our procurement policy would be. And I don't know where to locate a copy of that. Does it need to go out for bid? Can we award it to her? Is there a dollar amount that requires us to send out a RFP, sorry.
I'll leave you get some more information.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good.
Are you inviting us to the March 19th meeting, or is it, you're gonna let us know how? it
No,
goes?
the March 19th meeting is the Climate
That's the
Smart
Climate
Task Force.
It's open to the public.
That
Anybody
one.
can.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're just letting us know that you're having it and you'll
Yeah.
report back?
Yeah, I'm gonna advertise. I'll have to give it to Beth to advertise on the city calendar and I'll let everybody know. And it'll be open to the public, obviously. It's not a closed meeting. So yeah, anybody can come.
Procurement policy is part of the.
All right, thank you. And those are all the questions that I had for you.
Oh,
Shana.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
CDO? Would you like to come up? How are you, Courtney? Good.
Your report was really good. I enjoyed that. Thank you. All the reports.
Yeah, I had some questions about the report that you gave us. Starting with the percent of grant admin and writing contract used.
Yeah.
So we have exhausted almost 98% of it.
Mhm.
So the contract runs from May 1st to April 30th. So May 1st would be the beginning of the next contract term.
Yep.
So where does that leave us in terms of grant administration work that is in progress or work that is yet to be done? Where does that leave us that we have nearly exhausted that
Yeah,
contract amount?
I think so. Part of probably why we're seeing such a close exhaustion of the contract amount is because I was out on maternity leave starting in November. And so our grant writer and administrator took on some more administrative duties while I was out to push through a couple grants, the Restore New York application. There was I believe it was a FEMA application through the fire department. So I think that they were running or charging or billing out a little bit more higher than they would have because they were covering for some of the administrative duties that I would have covered. So now we're back, getting back online, doing an assessment of where we're at with everything. Had a conversation with Barton and Judas to understand sort of where are we going from here. We have a couple options, we can pause and then pick things back up starting in May. And move forward into the new contract year, or we could continue some activities and then just kind of start reaching into the contracted amount for next year. Since we contract with them up to a certain amount every year, we could just reach forward and grab some of those monies. So we did a little bit of an assessment of, what are the projects, what are we needing assistance with? Prior to me leaving for maternity leave, they wrote a couple RFPs that have now since been released. So that was a bulk of work that was done. I don't really forecast needing their assistance with any grant writing or RFP writing until we get closer to the consolidated funding application period, which is in July. So we'll be into our new contract term. And so right now, what I'm kind of proposing is that we're just, not doing any activities until we enter into our new contract term, and then we're able to pick things back up. So that would be in May, and May is typically when we start to have conversations with different departments to assess what are the grant opportunities we'd like to include in this year's CFA applications. We start to compile our grant strategy, which we present to everybody on the council to get your feedback and your buy-in, and then we move forward with applications. And so all of those activities would happen in our new contract year. So right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, so as not to exhaust more than what was already allocated for working with them for 1 year.
Okay.
That was a long explanation. Did that? Okay.
Yep,
Cool.
that makes
I had
sense.
that same conversation with them, because
Yes.
I was pretty surprised when I got the email when Courtney was out, so.
Yeah.
We've had our conversation with them too, and I can share that with you. if you'd like.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of the three answers. Quite frankly.
Yeah, I think given the end of the year and then going on maternity leave and what was on the docket, makes sense that they had to use a little bit more allocated time, but I think there was some, there could be some improvements in terms of the communication and maybe like
I
feedback
think it'd be
mechanisms.
really nice to have a little bit more,
Yeah,
a little warning maybe before it runs out. Okay.
Under your Parks Renewal Project.
Yeah.
Tab. Looking at. Oh, there we go, South Acres. So preliminary conversations with vendors to obtain quotes for skate park renovations. Now, I'm assuming that's in the Penfield Park you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And South Acres Playground design as potential projects. So do you have any update above that bulleted point? Like what kind of playground update
Yeah.
or design are you
yeah.
thinking about for
Yeah, I'm
South Acres?
Happy
South
to-
Acres needs some love.
Yes, it does. It
Yes,
needs
it
lots
does.
of love.
And,
And I'm determined to get that love.
per request of a council member, I'm going to be going out and trying to get a better understanding of what a new playground at South Acres Park would look like, what the cost would be, looking at the square footage available and getting that cost is no cost to the city. So it's just giving us more data and information to start making an informed decision about, where we want to go next with the park project. So that is a meeting that I still need to have with the person who designed the playground for South Platte Street. And so that will take a couple weeks to turn around to sort of start to get a proposal. Jumping over to the skate park, that was a conversation, it was brought up, we had that $100,000 pledge for skate park improvements from the Berry Company, and not much has happened with that pledge. It is just a pledge. It's not like we have money in hand. It's just a pledge, meaning that company has said, hey, we will put this towards the, improvements to a skate park when that eventually happens. And for historical context, when we got that pledge, we did reach out to get some ideas of, what would it cost to do a redesign of our skate park? And some of those numbers came around $500,000 to $600,000. So $100,000 is not going to pay for like a total revamp. I think the question that Mayor and I were having in a meeting was, well, what could $100,000 do? Maybe that could make some significant improvements that would still improve our skate park, because we might not get to a $500,000 skate park in quite some time. And so this is, again, more of an exploratory conversation so that we can just collect more data points on, what would this cost be? What would this look like? Is it something that would the community be excited about that? Or are they like, no, if it's not a full redesign, we don't support it, you know, just getting that information and then we can use that again to make a decision about where we go next with our parks project.
Okay.
Are you interested in getting community members together that have ideas for the skate park? I definitely have a friend who, he's definitely very interested.
Absolutely, yeah, I think, you know, almost maybe in model with kind of how we did it at the Fox Hill Playground of getting some conceptual designs created and then being able to put that out to the community for comment and sort of get a gauge, but I'd love to bring a little bit of something to give to the community first and do a little bit of that pre-work before we bring them in on that. But yeah, I definitely want the expertise of an actual skateboarder.
So the skate park in Penfield, that's the Penfield Park, right? That's where it's located. Is that the only skate park in the area?
Wait, the
Park
only
in the
one that's
city?
supposed to
City.
be. a
Legal
skate
one.
park?
The only one in the city.
Yeah.
Skylar Falls.
They've got the pump track.
Right, they got a pump track.
Pump track is very
Where's that?
cool. That's Skyline Falls. I don't know the name of the
Where?
park that it's in. Have you heard of the pump track?
No.
Oh, they're so fun.
What is
I'm-
that?
I'm biased because I take my kids there all the time, but it's just a paved track that has, you know, like incline and decline. And the idea is you can kind of get going on your bike, you know, and you pump, I guess, to keep momentum. And they've got one for little kids and then they have a bigger one that has some like bowls and turns, and it's a little bit broadens the ability to participate, I guess. You can do it on a bike, you can scooter on it. I don't know if they recommend skateboarding or not, but
Where is this?
it's in Skylar Falls. You know the name of the
I don't know the name of the park, but I
It
know
looks like
they
a
have a
paved
lot of
BMX
volunteer work.
It looks
done on
like a BMX track?
Yeah, right, like a
Yeah.
paved BMX track.
Good thing.
Okay.
Courtney, I had two questions, or like more just one comment and one maybe question.
Sure.
A constituent reached out, I think, to all of us, and I was asked if I could bring it forward, just to throw in about Sailor Beach. There was a question about whether or not the bridge leading to the beach would be considered in that feasibility study that we had talked about.
Yeah.
I think the concern was whether or not it was structurally safe enough to even get equipment across it. I know nothing about that, but the person wanted it brought up.
Okay.
And so I don't know if that can be folded into something that the,
It's still rated for 80,000 pounds. Yeah, so when they actually did the new retaining wall and everything there, they were able to drive fully loaded dump trucks across that bridge.
beautiful.
So
I,
it's able to hold the vehicle.
okay, excellent. I think he'll be glad to know that. And the second thing was about, we have a resolution in here about outdoor dining this season, which I think is awesome. And we have, you know, some restaurants that want to put things on the sidewalk and have their parklets. And we're gonna be looking at that. Oh, sorry. But I just wanted to make a comment real quick, that while I love that this is out there, that just hopefully that publicly I can say that people will be really mindful about the rules around it. As you know, I work with people with disabilities, and the code does, you know, and it's very well written in our code that it's a 5-foot walkway, and that when we have people that do outside dining, I guess I just ask people to be respectful of that rule, that you know, that they do keep that space clear, because sometimes stuff can trickle out onto the sidewalk and encroach on that space. And I just hope that people would do right by that. So it is in here, it's written in here. So it's just a comment more than a question, but a comment for the public too, to just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
I had one more question for you about the revolving loan fund.
Yeah.
So years ago, when Matt was the CDO director, we had contracted with, I think her name was Ann Russo Holland.
Mhm.
And so I guess I didn't understand why we aren't maintaining that relationship with her, what's going on, or what happened there and what's happening here. If you could maybe
Yeah.
explain a little bit.
So from my understanding of it, I believe Anne was contracted to create sort of the administrative plan
Mhm.
for the revolving loan fund. I know she created a bunch of forms, she updated our manual, she did quite a bit of training with some of the CDO staff at the time on the policies and the procedures of the revolving loan fund. I don't believe that part of that was for her to actually administer the loan fund.
because my recollection is that she was
Okay,
retained to help administer that fund.
let me look into that.
I'm
Yeah.
certain of it. I'm
Sure.
like, I could be misremembering, but oh, we've got a hand. We have another hand in the audience.
I don't know the exact wording of her contract, but don't, and this could be checked with her, but I
Yeah.
don't know that she would have capacity to administer it. So I think what is going here is, Ormy has vetted an organization with the capacity to oversee applications.
So if Andrew Zoholland was in fact hired in part to administer, we never got any updates about that fund at all or what was happening with it.
Yeah.
Is that something that you could put some research into and give us an update with the next time that you do your council meeting report? I would like to know
Yeah.
what was done,
Yeah.
especially
What did the
because it
contract
looks
say?
like you're ready to move forward with a different
Mhm.
company and agreement. And I'd like to know what was done and what direction we're going in with that.
Sure, yeah, happy to.
Okay.
We've been doing a lot of research on it, so.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we do it right.
Right, yeah,
Mhm.
At the end of the day, we want to make sure we fix it and we've got some good folks working with us right now, and I think it's gone really well.
yeah, thank you.
It needs to start being implemented.
Yeah.
Those were all the
Okay, cool.
questions I had for
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, great report.
Public Works. I do have some questions for you. So obviously spring's on my mind because I'm gonna ask you some questions about shrub overgrowth on riversides.
Okay.
So I've engaged with some people in the community who complained that on the Saranac River Trail down, is that Pine Street? Yeah, and I'll bear witness to, and when my son and I are on bikes and we stop at the little benches on the side of the grass there, you've no visual right of way at all. And I didn't know if council would be interested in seeing if some of that could be, I'm not saying raise it all the way down to the grass, but maybe some kind of
So
cut
what
back
we,
a
what
little
we
bit.
try to do there, it's a tricky one because we do have the double fence, so I have, excavator mounted mowers that can reach behind and over. And trim it back, just like, for instance, Terry Gordon.
Mhm.
I'm really not allowed to jump over the fence and start trimming, but we try to reach with a mechanized machine and cut down stuff. Sometimes people get a little bit disturbed because it looks pretty rough, but things grow back very thick. As far as going down those slopes, it's really, they frown upon that, DEC doesn't want us removing vegetation along the slopes. Case in point would be under Durkee Street parking lot, that backside there was when they did the path through there, that was one of the prerequisites, is not to be removing excessive vegetation. Slope stabilization.
Okay.
So up top, for sure, we always want to strive to keep those fence lines clean and knock them back. But as far as going down the banks, I would say
That's a no.
it's, yeah.
I believe there
Got
were-
it.
When that was originally designed down there, I think there were 2 spots. I think there's benches there
Mhm.
where they actually had cleared some of the brush out, so when you were sitting at the bench, you could see the river. But DEC wouldn't allow them to actually clear everything out along the pathway to
Okay.
have visibility, so they kind of compromised, and again, this was before my time, before I started working with the city, but I remember hearing where there was. Actually, yeah, it was, we built over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can look in to see where those spots are and see if maybe we can gain some of those back. But like Mike said, they really are picky about what you're cutting along the riverbank.
Mhm.
Because they don't want, when that river comes up, if the roots of those trees and plants are actually what holds that together. So the river will actually wash that out, and they don't want that happening. So they're very picky about slope stabilization.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you. Would you mind walking us through your report? Your
No,
public
absolutely. So Cornelia Street is in the design phase. I don't know, are we gonna do executive session on that this evening there?
We have time. Yeah.
Okay, we'll skip over that one. City Hall stairs on the agenda tonight is recommending award of the City Hall stairs contracts, both the primed for the stairs themselves and the electrical contract with the alternate. The alternate is for the pedestal light you see out there. That will give us a complete front entrance and also address the north and south entrances drainage issues.
Mike, I had a question. The landing, is that included? in
Yes,
that?
it is. City Hall Beach, we're doing great on that. It was out there, the inspection was it Monday, the mayor called me, I was in the field. Performance coatings are going on, meaning we're painting walls and floors. Next thing will be bathroom partitions inside, hanging fixtures, so I would say by this time next month. Everything inside should be 100%. It leaves us some exterior masonry work, a couple concrete pads out there, and the outside showers.
Okay, so that's the city beach bathroom you're
That's
talking
the
about.
beach
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
excellent on that. South Acres barn roof, I did get a final design from our engineer and a engineer's estimate. We'll go ahead and it falls within what we had budgeted, so let's put a bid package together and put it out to bid.
Great.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, what we have there, and you can't see it to the naked eye, but if anyone's been into an old church, for instance, and you see the tie rod system they have to keep the roof, the walls from splaying out, we're having that type of situation with that gambrel. I guess it's a gambrel, right? Gambrel roof. So you won't see it, but inside in the upper half, there'll be some bracing.
So we're talking about that red barn, is that?
Yep.
What
Yes.
Okay.
My red barn.
Okay.
I have them in my barn. They're basically just big wires that stretch across the whole thing and it ties the roof sections from separated.
Yeah.
So it's very common.
And that was what the holdup was, because we're trying to figure out what was going on with the movement of it, so. That's what they came up with for us. The roof system will be a little bit different. It'll be a half lap as opposed to a traditional shingle, which is more likely to adhere to that building a little bit better in the high winds, and also it's more a traditional style anyway to that style of barn, so we'll go with that. Road resurfacing, I actually finished up yesterday the estimates, my internal estimates, before I send it out to contractors for their estimates for the streets we have in the program for the season, so we're on schedule to start cutting deals for that and get dates lined up. Sanitary sewers, we did write POs for slip lining work for the work on Cornelia Street. And over on Terrell Ave, I have a small section, so they want to start as early as maybe next month. Which it'll be night work, it shouldn't interfere with anybody, we just have to communicate with the businesses. Up there on Route 3 to make sure they're aware of it. Find out the time so we can shut them off from sewer service.
Okay.
And then water distribution in the design phase, we're still reaching out. This was the US Oval Water Line project that we have design money in for. There's gonna be some basically exploratory work on our end this summer, along with some design work performed by a consultant. Any questions about any of those before we move on to operational? Okay. Operational, obviously, we've had a little bit of snow since last meeting. We've had 5 water main breaks.
A lot.
Yeah, we've had a lot, yes. Well, I say a lot. We averaged 8 to 12 a year, so we're right on track. One was pretty severe. The one on Broad Street was a 14-inch main, complete rupture. We lost probably 1 million gallons of water in a 4-hour period. We gauge it by how much water's in the tank, how quickly it's going down, but we got it under control. The irony of it all is actually no one got put under a boil of water because of the location. Everyone was backfed. It was not a loss of pressure. It was a decrease in pressure, but not below 20 PSI, which is the limiting factor on that. So we did okay. It was expensive to repair, as is any water main leak. They don't typically happen during the middle of the day during regular working hours. So not only the size of the leak, but the hours we have to work to do it. I think the mayor made a comment this morning was that we were out there 24 hours to get that from start to finish. So
And it was cold then.
and it was cold, yes.
Yeah.
The other leaks, some were 4-hour repairs, some were 6-hour repairs, but and again, they go in clusters. It's combination of factors, frost penetration. When you do have a break, you'll reintroduce air into the system. We do our best to bleed it out. Air doesn't compress, so if you hit a tight turn, it'll cause something to pop. It finds a weak spot. So that's where you're at with that. Hydrant maintenance, you believe it or not, we do work on hydrants this time of year, basically with thawing them. We have a list of hydrants where we have high water table areas, there's a open drip. So they drain, so sometimes they'll fill with water, so we have to go and steam them out. So when you see hydrant maintenance on my list of stuff to do, that's what we're out there doing. And last, we're doing some sewer monitoring and maintenance. What did we find yesterday? We thought it was a rapid, it was actually.
There was a squirrel in the gentleman's sewer lateral.
Yes.
Thought the sewer one.
So, all sorts of fun stuff.
Nice.
Also monitoring Waterhouse Street. Yesterday, we actually checked in today on the CSO end down there. It flows look very good.
I don't know below.
But we're still separating
I
them.
was at South Platte. I was
South
South Platte.
South House good.
Still good down there.
Yeah, we're good.
We're still separating them.
We are looking into it. That's gonna be a question that we're working on with Janelle.
Because we dumped into the Saranac on, right, last year? Last year we had. a
We
dump for
do
the year
any,
before.
well, when we hit a high flow
Yeah.
event, but you're
Yeah.
planning to come close. This last one, right? If Janelle would let me know, they have an overflow, they go out and do the deductions, so. And then the last one on my list here, and this goes really well with what we started the evening with, which is our climate smart and green policy, is the New York New Advanced Clean Truck Rule. I left a package for all the councils.
Yep.
Basically what is happening here is class 7 and 8 trucks, heavy trucks, over the road trucks, meaning plow trucks. They are phasing them out, or they want to at least. What it means is, long story short, for a dealer to sell a diesel truck or diesel trucks, they have to sell one electric for every 10 diesel chassis. No one's buying class 7 or 8 diesel or electric chassis right now. So any of the local distributors of trucks, they can't really sell to anyone. The caveat is this: there's a 2-year waiver, which I gave, I think the addendum in that package I gave you pointed out that we have 2 years as a municipality, if we choose to buy trucks, and they have to be a plow truck, a sweeper truck, or a combination truck like a vac truck, where we clean catch basins and manholes and jet with. We have 3 trucks in our fleet, 3 plow trucks that are due for replacement. My plan was over the next 6 years. We're gonna probably have to consider accelerating it. I'm still putting together the financial end of it. Most of it can be covered, if not all of it, for the plow trucks with chips. The other truck we need to take a look at is our combination unit. It's a very expensive truck. That one, while it cannot be covered under chips, the one thing it does have currently has good residual value because of what it is. It's about, I'd say, 50% of its life cycle. We're at 7 years. You could probably get another 5 to 6 years out of it, maybe. But we want to take a look at it and see if it's worth trading and upgrading it before they get expensive. We brought up the tickets. To give an example, in 2018, which was the last plow truck that we bought, we spent $194,000. That same truck spec today is $285,000. So it's gone up 50%. It will only get worse, and that's before the tariff rumors. So as soon as I get the numbers together, we'll get it in front of you. You guys make the determination. I know that right before this last snow event, the mayor and I were on the phone. He was asking how things were going. I had one of those, well, 2 of those 3 trucks were down. One was down on a cylinder. One was transmission issue. Fortunately, it was just a code of the cylinder. We're still looking into it. The truck made it through the storm. We were very lucky. We had 0 equipment failures during the last event, which we plowed 24 hours straight. So, any questions about any of this stuff?
A question on something. So I have a constituent that lives on Stetson Inn that contacted me about, they were unhappy with the paving, I guess, on the patching that happened.
Yep.
And because snowplows hit it and
Yeah.
it makes that loud, gunshot noise.
Yep.
And I think the gist of the email was they wanted to know what the schedule was for like Lind and that section of roadway. When Stetson, if that was gonna be replaced anytime soon.
I don't have it on the immediate schedule. I'll have to look at the long term.
I'll
Yeah,
email you.
I
I just
can,
wanted to
I can get
check.
together, yeah. What we do, and again, like we talked about, during the road resurfacing, that I figured, I think 8 streets, and I had an additional 3 or 4 of estimates I prepared this week. We see how we perform, hopefully prices on asphalt stay, and that's really the driving factor, will be asphalt prices. Stay stable. If we perform well, we'll try to do more.
Okay,
So
cool. Thank you.
that's
Definitely.
Anything else? Let's call for dismiss the work session. How's that? Take a break and we'll come back in 5 minutes.